Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the third part of Lecture 2. We're still looking at monitoring cycles, jobs, and inflation. I apologize. You might be already used to by now for many of us trying to record the different types of the lectures where our slides are only 7 minutes to 8 minutes instead of the full 15 minutes. So I hope you'll be patient and bear with us as we all try to do a better job with this new type of interface. So welcome back, and let's look at a little bit about the unemployment and full employment strategies as we go by. So if we're trying to kind of look at an anatomy of unemployment, we can see how people become unemployed if they either lose their jobs, leave their jobs, or enter or re-enter the workforce. And as you can remember, perhaps one of the defining forces of unemployment was if you're waiting for about a month or 4 weeks to be recalled from by the same job that you were working at, or you decide to withdraw from the workforce altogether. Now, the book in an older version has a figure which kind of gives you an idea of who are employed and how economically inactive people can enter or re-enter the employed group, and they can leave jobs, lose jobs, also retire from jobs. Also, you can see how the economically inactive can enter or re-enter the unemployed group, and look at the hires and recalls, the withdrawals, and the job losers and the job leavers. Okay, these are some older statistics, and you will see the percentage of people who are leaving and entering jobs. You can see the duration of unemployment and how it increases during recessions. You can look at the unemployment rate by demographics. Now, what we'd like to signify more this lecture is to talk about the different types of unemployment. The three specific types of unemployment we'll be looking at is frictional unemployment, and structural unemployment, cyclical unemployment, and this kind of classification also helps us understand what are the causes of unemployment. If we stop for a moment and let you decide, of the three here, which do you think you would label the reason for maximum unemployment at the moment because of the pandemic? Well, let's first find out what each one of these three mean and how we define them. So, friction, like if you're on a road, if you're in a car, and you're going at a very high speed, and you suddenly foresee a pedestrian on the road. You may want to hit your brakes very hard, and the noise that you hear is sort of like a screech because of the friction between the tire and the road. It's a sudden requirement, but it also allows you to move on after you have allowed the pedestrian to cross. So frictional unemployment is sort of like the kind of leaving a job and returning to it. It's sort of like coming back to a new job or improving a job. So creation and destruction of jobs, where some people are leaving jobs, some people are taking the very first job that they received an applicant letter for and didn't like it much, so they left the job, started looking for a second job. Or if there is some of you who will be entering the workforce very soon, and it also increases unemployment benefit payments because the book is published in the UK. You have this benefit payment here, and it raises frictional unemployment. When you have new people entering the workforce, because if you recall, to calculate the unemployment rate, you need the workforce, and those of you who are 16 and above belong to this workforce in the working age population, and some of you are working, and some of you will be working soon, but you are all considered a part of the statistics that comprise the workforce. As a result, if you're not working, you are increasing the unemployment rate, right? So, this is just a normal in and out from the employment. The frictional unemployment is caused by people entering a workforce and leaving a job, entering a new job, switching jobs, etc. Right? The next is structural unemployment. This is an unemployment created due to changes in technology, foreign competition that change the skills and location and match between jobs and workers. Now, imagine, since we are in Bangladesh, remember a few years ago it was necessary for all the tanneries to move out of Hazaribagh in Old Town. And they all had to go to Ghazipur, Mymensingh, and various other places, but out of the main city centers. A lot of people who were employed in these tanneries, and it was their life's work that they had, this is the only skill that they knew. A lot of them were unable to relocate as the industries were relocating, perhaps because their homes were in the old town, or their children were going to school there, or somebody in their family who was also a breadwinner was working at a different job which was located at this old town as well. As a result, they lost a job and became unemployed because of relocation of industry. Also, imagine, let's say, a biscuit factory. A biscuit factory which belonged to manufacturing biscuits some 50 or 60 years ago. And it was a very primary industry where people probably used their hands in order to make the biscuits. Now imagine that you had new industrialists investing, and as a result, they found new types of machinery which allowed for automated production. As a result, they probably invested, and things were much more cleaner, and customers started moving to purchase this particular type of automated product. Industries that had previously invested in the handmade biscuits probably are having to close down, let go of some of their workers, and as a result, a sort of unemployment is being created due to changes in technology. Sometimes we have to let go of certain types of manufacturing because of the comparative advantage gained by importers by buying goods from some other nations that can sell it at a cheaper price. A very well-known nation that we are always competing against to allow us to sell goods at a lower price is China. And then we also have a skills mismatch and a spatial mismatch. So spatial here is location mismatch. That also what we described earlier, because of technology, relocation, and lack of skills, we have a sort of unemployment. It's sort of an infrastructure change in terms of unemployment in the labor force, and that also creates a type of unemployment. The other is cyclical unemployment. If you can recall, the business cycle, if it's economic growth is happening, more employment is happening, unemployment is low. If the economy is slowing down, unemployment is high. As a result, we can see that during recession, chances of cyclical unemployment being very high is probably the right way to think. Now, once again, before we leave these two slides, so which one of these three do you think is going to be the result of the pandemic? Would it be cyclical, structural, or frictional? Think about it and we can address it at a later slide. Let's talk a little bit about full employment. Is it possible for any nation to have or achieve complete or full employment? Is it possible to give everybody that wants a job, needs a job, a job? So we have described full employment as when there is no cyclical unemployment, or when all the other types of unemployment happen, but it is not due to a business cycle, right? So there may be just a normal wear and change in the turnover in the labor force, people switching jobs, so they're away from a job for about 30 days, so it raises the unemployment. But in reality, the same workforce will be joining another, some sort of employment opportunity within the next 4 weeks. Or because of technological change, somebody loses a job, but someone else will be replacing that somewhere else. And this is periodic. And let's look at the second part here. The unemployment rate at full employment is called the natural rate of unemployment. So this is a phenomena, it's a concept, and it cannot really be measured accurately because the estimates of its size are different at different times. At best, we can say when everybody that you think should be employed is employed, and if you are unemployed, it is not because of a business cycle problem. We call that the natural rate of unemployment. Now, so how are we going to converge the concepts of real GDP and unemployment over the business cycle? So if you recall from our earlier definition of potential GDP, we can now restate where we had earlier said that it is when we utilize all the factors of production to their fullest capacity. We can also now say if everything is working to its best possible capacity, we have actually employed everybody, which means our labor force at its best possible means, which means it is at full employment. This is a very important concept, and we will require this information in the next chapters to follow. So potential GDP can be restated as the quantity of real GDP produced at full employment, which means the maximum production by having everybody employed. It also corresponds to the capacity of the economy to produce output on a sustained basis. It's not just a one-shot. Actual GDP will continuously fluctuate around potential GDP during the business cycle. But once again, the nuance of potential GDP, it's a concept that is best understood by saying it's almost possible to reach it, you can surpass it, but sometimes it is what you wish but may not achieve. So, that straight line on the top figure is your potential GDP. So capital, land, labor, everything is technology, entrepreneurship, all used to its best capacity. It produces sort of like a resultant vector, right? The best possible outcome. In reality, look how close the real GDP is, just hovering up and down, but not quite staying on at the potential GDP. Sometimes potential GDP is higher, sometimes potential GDP is just at the very lower end, at the tip here. This is the 2000s we're talking about. The book has a few more recent diagrams. Please go through it. Now, here's an important phenomena for you to understand, and we will catch up with this in the next slides to come. Thank you.